You know, there are some studies in psychology that are just infamous, the kind that really get under your skin. The Stanford Prison Experiment is one of those. It was designed to stare right into the darkness of the human heart by asking one single terrifying question.
What happens when you put good people in an evil place? That was the question Professor Philip Zimbardo asked back in 1971. And really, it's a question we all wonder about, right? Does our humanity win out in the end? Or does the evil of the situation take over?
So let's talk about that, a question of evil. Because this whole thing, it was never really just about prison, you know? It was about something much deeper. It was about finding that line, that razor-thin line between good and evil, and figuring out just what it takes for a normal person, someone like you or me, to cross it. Okay, so picture this, it's August 1971. We're at Stanford University, in the basement of the psychology building. A group of totally normal college students are about to start what's supposed to be a 2-week study on prison life. The plan was simple enough, but as you're about to see, things did not go according to plan.
All right, first things first, building a prison. See, if you want to test how a situation affects people, you have to create that situation. So that's what they did. They took this bland, sterile university hallway and they turned it into a jail. A real, believable, functioning jail.
And who were the people in this prison? Well, they weren't criminals or anything like that. We're talking about 24 male college students. And get this, they were all screened beforehand to make sure they were psychologically stable. Just regular guys. Then, completely at random, they were assigned their roles, prisoner or guard. A flip of a coin, really, that would end up deciding their fate. Now, for the guys who were chosen to be prisoners, the whole thing didn't start in some university basement, no. For them, it started at home on a quiet Sunday morning with the sound of a siren. That's right, a real Palo Alto police car comes screaming down the street, and actual officers who were in on the study started making surprise arrests. Just try to imagine that. Suddenly, you're being charged, searched, handcuffed. You're dragged out of your own home, slammed against a police car, and all your neighbors are just watching. Then you're fingerprinted, booked, blindfolded, and thrown in a holding cell. This wasn't a simulation anymore. It was becoming terrifyingly real. And believe it or not, this was only the beginning.
Once they got to the Stanford County Jail, a very deliberate process began, a process of dehumanization. They were stripped naked, deloused with a spray. They were given these awful, ill-fitting smocks to wear and no underwear. Their names? Gone, replaced with a number. And a chain was locked around one ankle, a constant physical reminder of where they were. See, this was never about just playing a role. It was about systematically erasing who they were.
So, what happened next? Well, let's just call it 6 days of chaos. Remember, this thing was supposed to last 2 full weeks. It didn't even make it through one. It was shut down after just 6 days because what started as a simulation quickly spiraled into a nightmare of real abuse and psychological torment. And it all unraveled so fast. I mean, look at this. By day 2, the prisoners are already rebelling, and the guards crack down hard. By day 3, one prisoner is having what looks like a complete mental breakdown. It isn't until day 5 that an outsider, a psychologist named Christina Maslach, steps in and basically says, "What on earth are you doing?" That's what it took. By day 6, the whole thing is shut down. Let's zoom in on that second day. The prisoners, they'd had enough. They barricaded themselves inside their cells. And how did the guards respond? These guys, who were just fellow college students 2 days ago, responded with incredible force. They blasted them with CO2 from fire extinguishers. They stripped them, took away their beds, and threw the guys they saw as ringleaders into this tiny closet they called the hole. Yeah, at this point, these were definitely not just roles anymore. And then came this moment. After only 36 hours, prisoner number 8612, a student named Douglas Corpy, just breaks. He's screaming, seems to be having a total breakdown. For years, this footage was held up as the prime example of the experiment's devastating power.
So the conclusion seemed pretty clear, right? The situation is what matters, not the people in it. You can take good people, put them in an evil place, and they will do evil things. They called it the Lucifer effect. The idea wasn't that the guards were bad apples. It was that the barrel itself was bad. And for decades, that was the story. A powerful, really disturbing lesson about us. But what if that isn't the whole story?
Okay, because now we get to this part, the experiment on trial. In the years since 1971, the study itself has come under a microscope. Researchers have dug back in, listened to recordings that weren't public before, and, well, they've found that the picture is a whole lot more complicated than we thought.
Yeah, what if the story that we've all been told for 50 years isn't the whole story? What if those guards weren't just slipping into the roles on their own? What if someone was coaching them? What if this whole famous experiment wasn't nearly as scientific as we were all led to believe?
And the critiques are huge. We're talking about things that completely undermine the study's conclusions. The idea that the participants were just acting how they thought the researchers wanted them to act. The fact that the guards were actually told how to be tough. And maybe the biggest one of all, the idea that some of the most traumatic moments were completely faked. Okay, this right here is a bombshell. Zimbardo's whole claim was that the guards just slipped mindlessly into their role, that it happened naturally. But then a recording surfaces, and on it, you can hear the guy acting as the warden, who is actually one of the researchers, telling a guard that he needs to be more tough for the good of the experiment. That's not observing behavior, that's instructing behavior.
And it turns out the problems might have started before the experiment even began. Think about the ad they ran to get volunteers. It specifically mentioned a study of prison life. Later research showed that just using that phrase tended to attract guys who were already more aggressive, more authoritarian, and less empathetic than the average person. So that pool of supposedly ordinary students maybe wasn't so ordinary from the get-go.
And remember that prisoner, number 8612, the one who had the terrifying mental breakdown, Douglas Corpy? Well, decades later, he came forward and said he faked it. The whole thing. He said he was just acting because he desperately wanted to leave so he could go study for an exam. I mean, think about that. That one piece of information throws one of the most iconic, powerful moments of the entire study into serious doubt.
So where does that leave us? This brings us to its unsettling legacy. If this whole experiment was this flawed, maybe even a fraud, then why are we still so obsessed with it? Why does this story refuse to die? Well, part of the puzzle is what happened when someone else tried to do it. Back in 2002, the BBC ran their own version of a prison study, and the results were completely different. In the Stanford experiment, the guards became tyrants and the prisoners broke down. But in the BBC study, the prisoners actually got organized and took power from the guards. It suggests that, maybe people don't just mindlessly slip into roles after all. Maybe who they are, their identity, actually matters. But even with all its flaws, the story of the Stanford Prison Experiment just won't go away. It's been used to explain real-world horrors, like the prisoner abuse at Abu Ghraib. Zimbardo himself even testified about it, saying it was the same thing, good soldiers in a bad situation. And maybe that's why the story is so sticky. It's simple. It gives us an easy answer for why terrible things happen.
And that really leaves us with one last kind of haunting question, doesn't it? If the experiment was a fraud, why does its lesson about the power of a situation